This is part 2 of a 3-part presentation made to the annual stakeholders meeting of the Dennis Hurley Centre in February 2019. We continue to look at our work through some key phrases of the Magnificat, Mary's vision of the world. Holy is his name, she says. It's important through our work that we honour God's name, but we also honour the names of those who continue God's work to this day. We regularly, as a community of staff and volunteers, get together and pray. Every Wednesday morning in our prayer room, we gather together, pray together, and reflect on some aspect of our work. Every Friday in the cathedral at the 10 o'clock Mass, special prayers are said for the Dennis Hurley Centre. And regularly through the year, we have opportunities to gather together staff and volunteers to pray and to reflect. Here, for example, during Lent in the Botanic Gardens with Father Stephen Tully. But as I say, we also honour the names of those who work in God's name. Archbishop Hurley, of course, and one of the ways that this was done last year was the launch of a collection of Hurley's letters, edited by Paddy Carney and also Philippe Denis and Jane Argall, and here being launched in Johannesburg with Jean-Marie, who knew Hurley so well, sharing some of his memories. And another name that we honour is the name of our current Archbishop, Cardinal Napier. The Napier Centre for Healing has been a sister project of the Dennis Hurley Centre, which we've been struggling to help set up and fund. But I'm delighted to say, almost a year later than we expected, our first 4 candidates are now being selected. And the Napier Centre for Healing is about to start recruiting staff and welcoming their first guests. He has shown forth his mercy. Well, mercy, of course, is what we show to the sick who come to us, and also the reason we go out and seek sick people so that we can help them, even when they're lying on the streets or sitting in parks. The ongoing work of our clinic is a key part of what we do as an organisation and takes a large part of our resources and our funding. The clinic work was greatly enhanced this year by the arrival of a new mobile clinic thanks to the Japanese government, a converted Mercedes Sprinter, which now means that we can go out and serve people on the streets and in the parks regardless of the weather and treat them respectfully and hygienically. We continued our permanent presence in the container clinic in Dalton, building trust with that community and by being there every day, making sure we know what is happening on the ground. And that's important because Dalton remains a place of injustice. Only a few weeks ago, municipal officials again came in and bulldozed the meagre belongings of the shacks of people who live there and burnt what they had, leaving the citizens, the homeless citizens who live in Dalton, once again bereft and abandoned. We hope to bring light into that dark place. We continue to do so with our creche, our preschool for children whose parents are living on the site. And we moved into a container, a better facility with which to run our creche. And also brought some colour into the grime of the area, thanks to Mookie and Giffy and a group of graffiti artists who designed a beautiful mural for one wall of the Dalton area. The clinic is not just about numbers, but it's worth pausing for a moment on the numbers that we saw. On average, 110 patients seen each day, 18,000 patients seen at the Dennis Hurley Centre, almost half of them refugees, and another 6,000 patients on the streets or at the satellite clinic in Dalton, almost all of those South African. We offered HIV tests for over 2,000 people, both in the clinic and on the streets. 23% of the women we tested were HIV positive, 19% of the men. And we made sure that they were then initiated on antiretroviral treatments. We spent 1.7 million on the clinic alone in 2018. But still, when you look at that in relation to the number of patients we see, it was only 65 rand for each patient seen, covering all of our costs. We do see a huge number of patients and worry sometimes that the number we see each day is unsustainably high. You'll see from this graph how that's gone up steadily over the years and has come down in 2018, probably to a more sustainable, albeit still high level, of between 100 and 120 people a month. And it's interesting to look at the ages of the patients we see, which actually doesn't vary much whether we see them in the clinic or in the community, or whether they're male or female. The vast majority of the patients we see are aged under 40, with a large number of children, particularly in the clinic. He has shown the strength of his arm. Of course, there's strength in our own resources, but we discover, as Hurley did when he campaigned against apartheid, that we have even more strength when we work together with others. A good example of that has been our attempt at economic empowerment programs to help homeless people achieve some financial independence. Our Send Me program is a way of matching people who want work with the demand for casual work. We couldn't do that without the clients who are our partners, but we need more clients because we have plenty of men who are trained and ready for work as soon as we can deploy them. We're particularly grateful to a collaboration between JT Ross, Johnson's and the Wildlife Trust, where we're doing a recycling project, and Stephen, who works on that, not only has work now, but is also saving the planet. A partnership which took us to a national level was attending the second national meeting in Pretoria to discuss homelessness. There were 6 cities represented, and the meeting was hosted by Stats SA, who are keen to partner with these organizations so that the 2021 census more accurately represents the number of homeless people who are in South Africa. And then at an international level, we connected. Dr. Stephen Carpenter and the director, Raymond, were in Europe earlier in the year and able to attend the International Street Medicine Conference in Rotterdam. We met organizations from 16 countries around the world and learnt a lot and shared a lot, and even visited a church in Rotterdam, the Pauluskerk, which is remarkably like the Dennis Hurley Center in how it looks and what it does. Mary tells us that God will scatter the proud in their conceit. And it's unfortunate that sometimes as a society we are too proud to notice the poor. So one of the roles of our advocacy work is to make sure that the voice of the voiceless is heard. We do that continuously and have done so in 2018 through press with regular columns in the Mercury and the Southern Cross, and also through radio. Here, 2 of our partners being interviewed about homelessness by Griselda on the SAFM afternoon program, but also with a regular slot on Durban Youth Radio and other interventions on SAFM. But our advocacy through the media reached a new high with the Carte Blanche program broadcast in September, which showed the huge problem of homelessness in Durban. I'm pleased to say it presented Dennis Hurley Centre and other organisations in a good light as trying to do work to respond to the problem, but it did also show the municipality and certain key individuals as really found wanting in their lack of awareness and empathy. The programme had huge consequences and created an uproar. The positive outcomes was the setting up of an eThekwini task team on homelessness, convened by the Deputy Mayor, with organisations, corporates, and interested and anxious citizens all involved, as well as members of the homeless community themselves. A public workshop at the ICC saw 200 people come together to share ideas. This is potentially a new chance of partnership, but the proof will be on whether the task team can actually deliver concrete change for the homeless. In a similar vein, Mary warns us that God will cast down the mighty from their thrones. Well, in a democracy, we don't need to overthrow people by revolution because we have other systems for keeping the mighty in check. The challenge is to use the elections, law courts, and the Constitution more effectively to help the homeless. One of the ways in which we're doing that is by partnering with the Independent Electoral Commission to try and ensure that as many homeless people as possible are registered as voters for the upcoming elections. One of the blocks to that, though, is that many homeless people have lost their IDs or had them stolen by the police. And because it costs 140 Rand to replace an ID, that's proving a block, unless we can persuade Home Affairs to partner with us on this as well. Another partner in this project is UKZN's Street Law Programme, who are working with us to provide training on democracy and rights to help homeless people not only to be encouraged to vote, but also to know their rights and know how to exercise them. That's the end of the second part of this presentation. There is a third and final part to conclude.